Hi, my name is Rusty Squire, and around Bozeman, Montana, I'm known as the pickle guy. I make the best garlic dill pickles, I think, anywhere around. And so today, what I'd like to do is share with you that recipe, show you exactly how to make these garlic dill pickles. And it's kind of a grandma recipe. I've been passing these out to friends and neighbors and people at the local town and country foods for years, and everybody always goes, my gosh, that's the best garlic dill pickle I've ever had. So I'm going to show you how to make them. It's kind of bright back here on the patio, so we're going to sunglass mode. But the first thing you have to start out with good garlic dill pickles is really fresh ingredients. And so what I do is I get pickling cucumbers that are grown by the Hutterites here in Montana. And these make by far and away the best pickles for garlic dills. You don't want the small gherkin size. You want to make sure that you get, pickling cucumbers. So get bags of fresh pickling cucumbers. Of course, with dill pickles, one of the most important ingredients is the pickling spice. I use Fisher's pickling spice out of Bozeman, Montana. They make far and away the best pickling spice. It's got coriander, it's got peppers, it's got bay leaves, it's got all kinds of good stuff in it. I've found there's no better pickling spice anywhere. It's made by a guy named Stan Fisher, Fisher's pickling spice. This isn't an ad for them. I make these just for my own enjoyment. Of course, you have to have fresh garlic. And what I do is I grind up garlic in a food processor and make ice cubes, garlic ice cubes. That way they're always available whenever I want to use them for any type of cooking, be it Indian cooking or be it just, Italian, anything. So garlic, and then you've got to have fresh dill. And these are just big fresh dill stalks. I just strip all the dill off and then we can use that later and I'll show you how we use it. Of course, for the brine, you've got to have apple cider vinegar. And what I do is I go 1-to-1, 1 gallon of apple cider vinegar, 1 gallon of water. And then with that 1-to-1, I'll generally use, about 2 pounds. This is a 3-pound box of kosher salt. And that makes the brine. Basically just apple cider vinegar, water, and then you just use kosher salt. And last but not least, you've got to have ball jars. And we're going to show you how we boil these and sterilize them and then pack them with the ingredients and the pickles and then seal them and then reboil them to get the lid to pop. That allows them to stay for a long time in storage in a cool, dry place. I've had these things last up to a year just sitting in jars as long as they're pop sealed. So let's get down to it. Okay, so step number 1. What I've got here for a setup is just basically an outdoor camp cook stove. It's hooked up to propane tanks. It's great because, pickles, when you make them indoors, can tend to stink up the house. So I like using one of these. You can pick them up for about $100 at Sportsman's Warehouse or just about any. But it's wonderful for cooking on the patio. If you like to do lobsters or anything that gets kind of stinky, pickles, this is a great setup. So what I basically do is just get these lit, get them boiling, and we'll be off to the races. First step is sterilizing all of our pickle jars. Well, as you can see from the steam coming off our pots here, that water is roiling. So what you do is you just basically take apart. I boil not just the actual glass jars themselves, and this is even if they're brand new. You want to sterilize them so they're sterilized before you put all the ingredients in. And then afterwards you want to boil them so they seal. That way they're going to stay good for a long time. So basically we'll just start putting all kinds of jars and lids into these kettles of boiling water. And then I find it's really handy to have a pair of these tongs that you can reach in and just get pickle jars with, after they've been boiled. Okay, so our first set of jars, we do about 3 or 4 per pot, depending on the pot size, are pretty well sterilized. So what I'll do is I'll just reach in there and get these jars out. And then I find it really pays to have a whole bunch of these rags around. I'm just going to pull out the jars, clean the outside a little bit, and then just put them down and put the lids on for now. So that's step number 1. Okay, so we got all 43 of our quart jars ready. I'm doing 43. I mean, you can do a dozen if you want to. It's all a function of scale. So the next step in the process, and one thing, if I didn't mention this, it's really important to get the wide lid jars. You can, when you're stuffing your pickles in, your cucumbers, you can get them in there so much easier. So we'll talk a little more about that later, but the next step in the process is going to be to strip the garlic, or the dill, and chop up all of the dill spice pieces as finely as possible, because the more finely you chop them, the more flavor they exude when they go into the mix. That's an important part. Okay, so let's get on to that. So what I do when I strip the dill is I just grab from the very top next to the flower with the seeds and just come down the plant and just peel off the actual dill itself. And then this is what I'm going to put onto the plate to chop. Now, I've found that these tops with the seeds really make flavorful pickles. So I'm going to keep those little tops and chop them up with the rest of the mix, but I discard the stem. Okay, so this represents all the dill from stripping down 2 full bunches of dill. That's only enough dill to really do about, I don't know, 6 of my pickle jars. But what I do with it is I just chop it all up and get it all nice and diced. Of course, it's better to be standing while you're doing this. And then just roll the knife through it and get it chopped as finely as possible. That's going to really allow the flavor of the dill to come out and allow you to really get some great dill flavor in your pickles. And dill is one of those spices that's just one of life's miracles as far as I'm concerned. It works great on fish recipes and all kinds of different things. So just get it chopped really fine, put it all in a bag, and then it'll be all prepared. Okay, so we've got all our ingredients prepped. We've got all of our jars sterilized. Got our pickles ready to go, got our garlic ready to go, got our dill ready to go. So now we're gonna make the brine solution, which essentially is an entire gallon of apple cider vinegar. And then what I do is I take that gallon of apple cider vinegar and I go back in and fill it up with water, potable water, and mix equal parts apple cider vinegar and water. And then to that 2 gallons of liquid, I add 2 pounds of salt, and it's kosher salt. So that's what creates the brine. So this is the next step in the process, and after this starts to boil, we're going to go ahead and get into the assembly, which is essentially putting the spices, the ingredients, garlic, the dill, into the jars, and then packing in the pickles and then pouring in the brine. So that'll be the next step. So I get asked a lot what the assembly process looks like. It's really pretty simple. You just take these sterilized jars, pop the lid. Now, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to this, but I usually put in several scoops worth of the pickle spice. Try to make sure I get a few of these peppers in there and a few of the bay leaves and then a whole bunch of the coriander and other spices. So, and I put that in the bottom until got a pretty good base of it. You know, there you can see right there, that's probably a good quarter inch to half inch of pickling spice that's been placed inside of this container. Then next, I'll take some of the garlic, and I'm more than generous with the garlic too. You'll see, I mean, this is more than a tablespoon worth of garlic that goes down into the bottom of that mixture. And then I'll take the fresh dill. And the fresh dill, I'm still probably putting in a little more than a tablespoon worth of that dill. It's a bunch of dill. So after that, you just grab the pickles, bust open a bag, and I like to start with the bigger pickles and I put them in vertically. So these are some larger pickles here. I'll just start stacking those things in vertically like this, and you'll see you can get the pickles stood up. Now it's probably not a bad idea to wash your pickles first. I guess I could have started there. So I'm gonna go wash the pickles, come back, and we'll complete the process. Okay, so now we have our nicely washed and clean pickles. Like I said, you just take the bigger pickles, stack them in there vertically, and I just keep doing that until they're packed tight inside the jar. And then once you've got a series of pickles packed in vertically and you can't fit anymore, then you're pretty well ready to pour the brine solution in and over the top of the pickles and seal the jar. Of course, that's not the end of the process, because once you've sealed the jar, you need to make sure that you pop the lids and seal the jar by boiling the jar. So you get a series of pickles in like this, and then I'll just pour the brine solution in and over the top. And once I've got the jar pretty well packed with pickles, I would consider this to be a fairly well packed jar, I'm just going to pour the brine solution in and then turn the lid on this seal. It's important to start with fresh seals every year. You don't want to pass along any contamination, and of course we boiled all this stuff as well. So we'll just keep assembling jars like this. I'll wait till I get 3, 4, or 5 done. And then what we'll do is we'll pour in the brine solution, seal them up, and do them about 4 at a time, and then just put them down here in the shade to cool. And then from there we'll move on to boiling water again so we can start the sealing process. The old brine solution is roiling, as you can see here, so time to pour it in and make our first 4 jars of pickles. Okay, well, the brine solution is going pretty good, so I'm going to turn this down and just keep it on medium. And what I'm going to do next, I'm just going to actually put the 4 jars of pickles right down flat on the ground. And there's a reason for that. I want to have it as low as possible because I'm pouring a hot solution, and it won't matter if it spills a little bit on the patio. So just take up the brine solution off. It's boiling hot, and now we're just going to start filling each of these jars to the top with the brine solution, which is once again just vinegar, water, and salt. And we'll go ahead and fill each one of these, and then once we're done, we'll go ahead and we'll seal them up. And then once we've sealed them up, we're just going to leave them somewhere in the shade where they can cool down before we boil them again. So I just pick up each one of these jars. Be careful because of course they are hot. Put on the lid and then just screw it on nice and tight to get a good seal. And now that jar is ready to be boiled. Okay, so as you can see, we've got a lot of pickles made here. That's not all of them, but what we've done is we've got the pot roiling there, the lobster pot, and we're putting the pickle jars in there to get a good seal on it. So that's what we're up to. So this is really the last step in the process. What we're trying to do is just get those pickle jars to pop, and once they've popped, pull them out, and we just let them cool down. We'll just put them in the garage and leave them down in the garage for a few days, and within a few days you can open those and you've got great garlic dill pickles. So that's how you make the world's greatest garlic dill pickle, or at least that's what I've been told. So from Rusty Squire, thanks for watching. Hope you had a good one.